I found it really hard to kind of identify the impact of the work that I was doing. So that the impact felt really remote, like either I was creating more profit for the business or I was making making the shareholders more profitable, whatever it was.
Right.
Um, and then it was really after I had my kids, and then we were in the middle of COVID. I was working ridiculous hours, right? I was working this corporate job that was extremely busy. I was watching my small kids kind of just wandering around the house quite idle. Neither my husband or I had a chance to really look after them. And I really just thought, like, why am I doing this? So
Mhm.
career coaching ended up becoming business coaching over, I think, about 12 months, roughly. And then they did actually go off as a consequence of the coaching, and were able to kind of create a business that they've now really successfully scaled. So I think that's a really nice one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
People, when people get in a stuck, when they feel stuck like that, and it seems like there's no other alternative, and nothing will ever get better almost. And then when you can be that catalyst for change, I think is really special, at least for me.
Yeah, it's really lovely. I think the other one as well that I really enjoy is I have a couple of founders who are first-time founders who are building their own kind of purpose-driven businesses. As you said, so I work with, stuck and unfulfilled high achievers who are, at a career crossroads, basically. They've worked really hard, they've moved up the ranks, they might have, great pay, they've got the title, the status, all those types of things, but they still feel like something's missing in their careers. A lot of them want to make more of an impact. They want to feel like they're solving more meaningful problems.
Mm.
Um, but they don't really know how to change, right? Because a lot of the times when we work in these corporate careers, we kind of feel like we need to continue climbing that career ladder along with everybody else who's doing it, right?
Mhm.
So what I really do is, as an executive coach, I help them design a more purposeful career strategy. So
All right, great. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today for uh, another episode of Define Your Purpose. And purpose is the birthplace of ideas. And joining us is an expert executive coach for stuck or unfulfilled high achievers
mm,
from Oxford in the UK, and Deena Priest. She's a career and business coach. Thanks so much for joining us today, Deena.
thanks for having me, Karl.
For sure, yeah, yeah. I would like to ask people lots of times about what got them started in what they're currently doing, and sometimes people have some very roundabout ways of getting where they are. So I wonder how you got started, what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I'll start with what I do actually, because then I can
Oh, great.
describe why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Um, so as you said, so I work with, stuck and unfulfilled high achievers who are, at a career crossroads, basically. They've worked really hard, they've moved up the ranks, they might have, great pay, they've got the title, the status, all those types of things, but they still feel like something's missing in their careers. A lot of them want to make more of an impact. They want to feel like they're solving more meaningful problems.
Mm.
Um, but they don't really know how to change, right? Because a lot of the times when we work in these corporate careers, we kind of feel like we need to continue climbing that career ladder along with everybody else who's doing it, right?
Mhm.
So what I really do is, as an executive coach, I help them design a more purposeful career strategy. So that means, it's something that really aligns with who they are as a person. It becomes more of a sustainable career because when you sort of know what your North Star is and you're making more um, career decisions that really align with that North Star and move you towards it, you're less likely to burn out or disengage. So that's kind of, one of the, I suppose, benefits of the work that we do together. But also, you become a lot happier in your career because you end up doing more purposeful work that really resonates with who you are as a person. And therefore, you're able to create better work-life balance, and you're just more energized on the whole.
Mhm. Right.
So, and oftentimes that can end up being different things, right? So people might decide they want to stay in their current corporate career and continue kind of moving up the ladder, or they might decide they want to kind of create this combination of a portfolio career where they've got, their corporate career, but they're also doing things on the side as well. Or, oftentimes it ends up with them sort of leaving their jobs altogether and, backing themselves to go alone and set up a business.
Right.
So
Right.
So that's what I do. But in terms
Okay.
of how I sort of
Awesome.
got here, to answer your first question. So I spent 20 years working in large professional services businesses. And, it was across
Mm.
law, management consulting. I was in sales for a number of years as well. And I really enjoyed my career. So people always say, was it that you left because you didn't enjoy it? It wasn't that. I did enjoy it, but I always felt like something was missing. I found it really
Mhm.
hard to kind of identify the impact of the work that I was doing. So that the impact felt really remote, like either I was creating more profit for the business or I was making the shareholders more profitable, whatever it was.
Right.
Um, and then it was really after I had my kids, and then we were in the middle of COVID. I was working ridiculous hours, right? I was working this corporate job that was extremely busy. I was watching my small kids kind of just wandering around the house quite idle. Neither my husband or I had a chance to really look after them. And I really just thought, like, why am I doing this? Why
Mm.
am I kind of living this life doing work that just really feels like it's not really me? Um, and then I started to think, like, what do I really enjoy doing? So what's going to give me more purpose? And
Mm.
always been the people development side of my work that I enjoyed in my corporate career. So the developing, the managing of the teams, the leading of the teams, the kind of, guiding of the clients, that sort of thing. Um, and so I became a coach, basically.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah, some people have a lot of problem with the even asking that question about what they really enjoy themselves, I think, because you get told so much of your life what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Found that?
absolutely.
Or, I mean, and it sounds like you found what you really love to be doing with coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I kind of came to the answer, immediately. It definitely takes, um, a lot of introspection, asking the right questions. I actually had my own executive coach that I work with, especially after my two maternity leaves. And I think it was really kind of the right questions that really unlocked for me what it was that I wanted to do,
Mm,
going forward.
right, right. Like, what do you enjoy the most, and kinda what do you see yourself doing in the future kinda questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if we think about, whatever point we are in our careers, we still have probably a long number of years of work, right, before retirement. So it's
Mm,
always worth asking the question, like, you know, what does meaningful work really mean? And if we're going to look back on our careers when we're in our sort of 80s and 90s, are we really going to feel proud of the way that we spent our time, or are we going to have regrets potentially?
Hmm. Right, right. Do you think that extreme dissatisfaction always calls for extreme life changes? And what are maybe some of the big changes that you've helped people through?
That's a really good question, actually. I think the answer to that is it depends.
Mm,
So, no, sometimes it doesn't require drastic change. Oftentimes, it just requires us to have um, more self awareness. So, what does purpose? So when you ask people like, what's your purpose? I think it's a question that not many people can answer, right? Because it's not something that we've really been taught to reflect on or kind of be
mm,
able to articulate, on a whim when somebody asks that. So I think the first part is self-awareness, just being clear on, what does purpose and impact mean to you in your career? And sometimes people find that in their corporate jobs, So for instance, there are leaders who go, I became a leader because I really love to see my teams grow and develop. But somewhere along the lines, they've kind of just disconnected, with that vision of themselves in their careers. So it just
mhm,
becomes more around leaning into that sort of human centric leadership side of things, and then perhaps just building more on the leadership development side rather than some kind of drastic career or life change.
mhm, mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So, I guess you've been a coach for quite a while now. How was it building your business at the start, and what were maybe some of the first realizations there?
Yeah, the first realizations. I think anytime you leave your job to start your own business, you suddenly realize that you don't have the cushion of a business or a corporate brand kind of protecting you or behind you. So I think the biggest realization for lots of people who set off to become coaches is that you are now the brand and the face of your business. So, you know, being able to find clients and the sales and marketing side of things are entirely on you. And I think a lot of people struggle with
Mhm,
that.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, and I think differentiating yourself in the marketplace can be a challenge when you're a coach because
Yeah.
anybody can take some coaching lessons and have a great background story and be a coach really, so it makes it difficult when you're starting out to, to get clients at first, I think. It's probably a very steep curve at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. I think the coaching market's it's super saturated, right? Like you said,
Mhm,
every second
mhm,
person is claiming to be a coach, and
mhm,
people from all kinds of backgrounds and age groups and everything else are kind of coming onto this scene. So um, for anyone that's sort of trying to set off and establish themselves as a coach, I think it's really being clear with yourself, like a which kind of people do you want to coach and what do you want to coach them on?
mhm. Yeah.
And I think lots of coaches struggle with that. But then
Mhm,
after that, it becomes okay, so what are your differentiators?
mhm. Right. Yeah, totally. So, who is your clientele then, mostly? And, what kinds of things do you help them with in your program usually?
So they are mainly corporate leaders, specifically from industries like management
Mhm,
consulting or professional services, law, financial services. What else? Sales. I have quite a lot of sales directors that I coach as well. Um, And I guess that's predominantly because, that's been my background as well.
mhm,
So, I'm just naturally kind of attracting more people like that.
okay. And then what is your program like that you do you take people through the same program, or is it customized based on the needs of the client?
So I've got two programs. So I've got my one-to-one program, which is more sort of customized around the challenges of individuals. But I also have a group program called Purposeful Ambition, which is really around taking, groups of people who are looking to create more purposeful career strategies through my coaching methodology. So really helping them, identify what's purpose and impact. How can you create the time to kind of think about, what this means amongst your sort of really busy day-to-day corporate career, and then, what's the roadmap from going to from where you are now to where you want to get to, and then how do you execute with accountability, with confidence, that sort of thing.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Great. And you mentioned differentiating yourself in the market. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about how you've managed to do that.
Good question. So I think, so going back to what we were saying earlier, so I think being clear on your niche
Mhm.
is
Right.
is the very first thing. And then once you kind of have clarity on who is, what's your niche, what's the audience, what kind of topics are you interested to coach people around, then it's, as a coach, what skills and experience do you really bring to the table, in addition
Yeah.
to obviously your coaching skill set? Because as as coaches, we're not just bringing our sort of coaching toolkit, we're also bringing our life experience and our career experience, to our
Right.
clients as well. Um, and then, with that clarity, it's thinking, so how do I find these people then? So, who you want to coach and you know how you're coaching them, but you have to find a way to actually find these people. So
Yeah.
how do you go about kind of doing that? So, for me, it's been a combination of, referrals from existing clients, but also building a brand on platforms like LinkedIn, for
Mhm.
instance.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And what other platforms are you on besides LinkedIn? Are you on Instagram or any of the video platforms?
So at the moment, I'm only on LinkedIn.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I like it there. It's a good place to keep it professional in the conversation.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is just it's just a really nice, networking site, basically.
Mhm,
So,
mhm,
you know, I've I've not only found clients on there, but I've actually made some really good friends.
mhm,
So there is a really kind of
mhm,
collaborative, really nice kind of community of people that if you kind of make the effort to get to know people, can actually become, yeah, really good friends.
yeah, yeah, it always, is worth the time to, meet people and have real connections. People get stuck hiding behind the computer these days and
Yeah,
don't wanna
yeah.
have real conversations sometimes.
And even better if you can take those LinkedIn relationships to the real world.
Mm,
So I've actually ended up meeting quite a lot of people like face to face. So
nice,
yeah, so that's been amazing.
great. Um So what have been maybe some of your favorite success stories that, you've had with clients? If you can think of
Hmm.
any that you could share.
Success stories, yeah. So I have a number of really senior leaders who were kind of very much at the top of their game, in their careers, and they really didn't know like what they wanted to do for like the next X number of years in their careers, and they
Mm,
just weren't feeling that happy, and it was affecting, I suppose, all aspects of their life. Their marriages, they weren't seeing their kids, all kinds of sort of things. Weren't making the time to exercise, go to the gym,
mm,
all the typical stuff that ends up happening.
right.
Um, and one of them had always had a desire to kind of build a business, but they just never felt, I suppose, brave enough or really sort of back themselves to be able to do it. So
Mhm,
career coaching ended up becoming business coaching over, I think, about 12 months, roughly. And then they did actually go off as a consequence of the coaching, and were able to kind of create a business that they've now really successfully scaled. So I think that
Awesome.
that's a really nice one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
People when people get in a stuck when they feel stuck like that, and it seems like there's no other alternative and nothing will ever get better almost. And then when you can be that catalyst for change, I think is really special, at least for me.
yeah. It's really lovely. I think the other one as well that I really enjoy is I have a couple of founders who are first time founders who are building their own kind of purpose driven businesses.
Mm,
Um, and it's really nice for me as their coach to be able to play a role in their success because, as you
mm,
know, first time founder is really stressful. You've got a lot at stake. It's very high risk. You're always wondering, am I going to make it work? Am I not going to make it work? So it's really nice for me to kind of be able to work with them to help kind of build their confidence, build their sort of
mhm.
sales mindset, think about how they could be better leaders, leading, this new workforce, etc.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, your clients don't always get a trophy to mark your to mark your efforts, but when someone is supported and they do amazing work at their job or, their position, then that really says something.
Yeah.
So what are you working on this year, coming up with your coaching? Do you
Um,
have,
so I've
uh,
I've got
maybe
my coaching program
Mhm.
that's kicking off. So the first round's kicking off in November.
Oh, great.
So yeah, very much focused on getting everything in place for that. Um, and yeah, and carrying on with all of my one-to-one engagements as well.
Okay. How's the program? How does that work?
So the program is over 3 months. It's for senior leaders who are kind of looking to build that more purposeful career strategy.
Mhm.
So we're all working together as a group, people from different industries, sort of coming together to really move them along in their thinking. So, defining purpose and impact, coming up with their sort of roadmap, and then, the execution side, all the things they need to do around, building a personal brand, thinking about, what leadership they need, building the right CEO mindset, these types of things.
Mhm. Awesome. Great. And do you help people on those people with individual business setup and needs for um, things like that, or are they already pretty established with what they're doing?
So they are mainly in the sort of early phases of thinking about like
Mhm.
what do they want to do with their careers. So yeah, so it's
Mhm.
taking them through the journey from really thinking about what's your purpose, what's your vision, what kind of problems do you want to solve, how do you want to do it, what's your niche, some of the things we've talked about today in relation to coaches as well. And then it's then the sort of, yeah, the practical side of then how do you sort of pull this off? How do you launch this? What are the different
Mhm.
things that you need to think about? How do you sort of sales and market yourself? What kind of business type do you need to be?
Okay. Awesome. So you help people brainstorm on the kind of the business plan and goals and all that,
Right.
that sort of stuff that you need to come up with when you run a business that
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
take a lot of time. It can be really hard to come up with that stuff sometimes.
Yeah. It's not, and they don't always end up launching businesses either. So oftentimes it can be this portfolio career where they're sort of thinking
Mm,
about how do I, um, in addition to my corporate job, have a variety of different projects or interests that I pursue as well and monetize. So there's
Mhm.
that too.
I Yeah, I think more and more people are interested in seeing the value of building a personal brand.
Hmm.
Do you get very many people who are that's their interest solely?
Yeah, so personal brand is, as we know, hugely important, in the current market. So, lots of businesses are laying people off. At the
Right.
same time, people are aware that, they may want to end up moving to a sort of portfolio career or business kind of career situation. So a lot of people are conscious that as a personal brand really just opens up the right doors and the opportunities for them. So
Mhm. Right.
I would say that more and more people are actually spending the time thinking about, well, what is my personal brand? How do I define, who I am? What's my value
Mhm.
proposition? And then how do I basically communicate that publicly?
Yeah, yeah. Or who do I wanna help with what? Is a
Yeah,
good start lots of times
yeah,
for people to think.
yeah. Who do I want to help with what? Because I think like personal brand, people think that personal brand is only for business owners, but
Mm,
actually more,
yeah.
more people in sort of employed roles are now recognizing its value as well.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's true, that's a good point. Um, are there Are there other things that you can think of that maybe from the entrepreneurial world that kinda carry over to the corporate world like that? I mean, you do coaching in kind of both realms, right?
Yeah, I think that just having that CEO mindset, it's something
Mhm,
that, whether
yeah,
you're a founder or you're a senior leader in a corporate role, you really need to have. You need to think like a business owner, not as a worker, right? So
mm,
things like,
yeah,
having a strong purpose and a vision, being able to communicate that vision and get people behind it, um, you know, saying no to things or, yeah, saying no to things that are not on your critical path, saying no to meetings that you don't need to be at, just that kind of thing. Um, Having the
mhm,
right behaviors that really help you move forward.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I think maybe realizing the needs of your business and, um, if you're not filling some of those needs, then finding a way to have them filled anyway, and realizing that you're not doing everything and that you can't do everything. I feel like so many people are told that they're supposed to be, do everything themselves, entrepreneurs. Mm,
Yeah, absolutely, especially high
mm,
achievers because they tend to be perfectionists as well.
mhm. Yeah,
And when you're a perfectionist, your standards are really high, right? You don't think that other people can meet them. So what that
mhm,
ends up meaning is that you take on a larger share of work than you should be taking on when actually you should be thinking about, delegation so that other people can develop as well and have a chance to grow. You should be thinking about automation, you should be thinking about outsourcing or even deleting, not doing the work because it's not going to move you forward.
yeah, yeah, if you're not spending your time doing what you're good at, if you're trying to do everything, then you're not gonna be doing what you're supposedly good at or supposed to be getting better at.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. It's thinking about like what gives energy, what gives you energy, and what takes your energy away. And
Yeah,
the more that we can all, regardless of what role we're in, right, whether we're working in corporate or a founder of a business or whatever, it's thinking about how can I craft my role so that I'm focusing on the things that gives me energy and I'm either outsourcing, automating, or deleting the things that drain my energy levels. And that's
mm,
where we really feel motivated and inspired in our roles.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. You can kinda do that, yourself on a day-to-day scale too, I think in your personal life. um, as
Yeah.
far as realizing what helps you and gives you energy, and maybe takes it away, and what you're allowing in that you shouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just auditing like your time, like how are you
No.
spending your
Yeah.
time? Who are you spending your time with? Do you enjoy the
Mhm.
people you spend your time with, or are they actually, um, you know, draining your energy, making you feel unmotivated, not inspiring you, all that kind of thing?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. It happens kind of subconsciously, that how we copy the behaviors of other people around us. I think a lot of personal development people talk about the five or 10 people in your core circle, I guess, and
Mm.
a lot of the traits that they have are going to average out in your life.
Yeah, that's right. They say we're the sum of the five main people that we spend the most time with. Although now that a lot of people are working remotely, I'm not sure how that works because we don't have,
Right.
those core people around us as much.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess they can be in other places, much as Zoom can work to have relationships with people, and like,
Yeah,
I think, like you were saying earlier, you can't always replace in person communication with
yeah, yeah.
with
Nothing
Zooms.
beats face to face.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do much coaching face to face? I mean, I think is your group coming up? That's all on Zoom.
Yeah, so the group program's all remote, um, because my clients are all over the world,
Mm, yeah,
basically.
nice.
However, it's very rare that people ask for face-to-face coaching. However, occasionally, one or two people will, and then I do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. I just had some friends who live down the street from me moved to England.
Oh,
They like
okay.
so
Where did they move to?
um, I think it was Oxford. That's why I mentioned.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I don't know. I got to follow up with them. I hadn't talked with them for a couple months, but they were liking it last I heard.
Mhm.
So, is there anything maybe that you wanted to talk about today that we didn't get to about your coaching and your experience and how you work with people? And
No, I think we've covered quite a lot.
okay, okay, good,
Yeah.
good. So, if people want to find you for further help, then you're saying LinkedIn is the best place to find you.
Yeah, if people want to connect with me, the best place to do it is on LinkedIn. I think I might be the only Dena Priest, or at least there won't be that many, so I should be quite easy to find.
Okay, okay,
Um, so yeah, drop me a message. I'm always happy to kind of chat and have confidential career conversations.
okay. Nice, awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. I like to say that when you walk with purpose, you collide with destiny. So I appreciate you being a guest here and speaking with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And good luck this week.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.